It's a celebration. You know what it is? Episode 232. Y'all know what it is. We live straight from Puerto Plata. Me llamo Yadet. You already know me. Estoy relajando. We out in the spot. More than a title. I'm your host, as your usual, Jared, Chief Revenue Officer, Outside the Box Digital. And I've got my brother, my brethren, your favorite CEO, Chadeo. What's good, cuz?
And we in the building, man. I'm jealous, man. You looking like you got a nice tan over there and shit. It's bullshit.
Taking me, bro. I'm taking
Look like you out over there with a nice little tan and all that, getting your Espanola up. I like it. I like it a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is. It is our first favorite day of the week, pod day. And you heard my cousin already told you, right? The show don't stop. This shows you a testament to our dedication. Even though he's in another country, we are still going to bring you the experience that you know and love. So with that being said, you got the testosterone on the top. So you know we got to have the balance in the Hollywood square right below right here, aka Nadege. What's up, sis?
What's good? Yeah, it's pod day. And right from out of the country to across the country, I'm out here in Cali for the week.
Yeah.
Oh, celebration. It's a celebration.
Yeah, but we still got, yes, it's midday still. So this is sunlight right now. But yeah, I'm excited. We got a great show. I'm hyped. Let's get started.
Listen, I just want to say this, ladies and gentlemen. If you were wondering, yes, she's in Cali, he's in Dominican Republic, and I'm still here. Yes, they left me. Let's just go ahead and get the elephant out the room. We got a guest on. I'm sorry, Jacqueline. We're gonna get to you, but they left me like a stepchild. You understand? Yeah, I'm crying right now, so I'm just letting y'all know. But we're gonna talk about it later. But ladies and gentlemen, you know how we like to start the show. We have yet another, and the word is yet another phenomenal guest. And we use the word phenomenal because every time we say it, we deliver 100 over 100. So we have another phenomenal guest. Get your recording devices ready. Get your pens and your paper ready because she's going to drop some gems. We already been talking about it behind the scenes. She got a lot of information for you guys. You're going to love this interview. We guarantee it. And with that being said, you know how we like to start the show. Also, G&T, grateful and thankful, right? This G&T goes out to the women of We All Rise. We All Rise. We had the pleasure of being invited out to another We All Rise event yesterday at Netflix headquarters downtown in Manhattan. Shout out to Judy and Nadine in Africa and Rima from Netflix for collaborating and making it such not only a safe space, but just a beautiful space. It was so comfortable. I didn't see one person in that room not conversing, not networking. It was just a beautiful space to be in. And it reassures us that people are still fighting the good fight. So I just want to say thank you, ladies, for inviting more than the title. We always love to come and support events like that and help move the culture forward. G&T, you know what it is.
G&T, man. Also, shout out to Black Cat too, because you're gonna be somewhere at Black Cat tomorrow, ain't you?
Yeah. We're gonna be at Black Cat tomorrow. That's all day, 9 to 5. So shout out to Peter and the whole Black Cat OSAS. We're gonna see you guys tomorrow, and we're gonna come support. And that's what we do, right? We don't talk it, we walk it.
We walk it. And shout out to CultureCon, shout out to Imani, shout out to Walter, Adon, Monique, Gabrielle,
Monique was there yesterday too.
Everybody that's fighting the good fight, that's putting up their investment and putting up their hard-earned money to do something for the culture. That is not something that's done every single day. So I just want to say we appreciate y'all. From one person that's doing something for the culture to the next ones. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all, and we're gonna do everything we can to support y'all, straight up and down.
I seen Monique yesterday. We had a good time. We had a
good time.
Mo was in there yesterday. Yeah, we had a good time.
We love you, you know what I'm saying? And we got another sis we love right now. Let's get into it.
Let's start the show.
Let's get into it. So before we actually give this queen the intro that she deserves, I just want to tell you who she is and our first interaction. So I didn't know this young lady. I knew that she was dope. I've heard things about in the industry about her, and I just gave her a cold DM on LinkedIn. Just like, yo, look, you're doing amazing things. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to rock with you. And just so happened, as the fate would have it, we were all going to Cannes. And we told this young lady that we're going to be in Cannes. We had a panel Monday on Black Week, which happened to be my birthday, and she showed up. Didn't know it was from a hole in the wall. Didn't know it at all. sat in the front row, gave us feedback, showed us love, stayed with us, rocked with us, and when you didn't have to. So before we give you this glorious intro, I just want to say I thank you. We appreciate you, Queen, because that stuff means the world to us. We're not transactional. And that showed who you are to us. That showed us you was more than the title. And so we just want to say we appreciate you, we love you, and let's let the people know who you is. You know what I mean? So for everybody tuning in, we love you, baby.
That's a
For
fact.
everybody, first time listeners, welcome back to first listeners, welcome to More Than Title. This is where we go beyond the resume, the job titles, the LinkedIn bios, and we talk real stories about the leaders shaping the culture, business, and community. And today's no different. This queen is the former chief marketing officer at Teradata. As the company's chief storyteller and member of the executive leadership team, she's built her career on transforming brands, driving growth, and showing what's possible when data meets creativity. She's led some of the biggest names in business from IBM, NielsenIQ, Oracle, and GE, General Electric, y'all, guiding companies through change, scaling new strategies, and proving why modern marketing isn't just about campaigns, it's about connection. Outside the office, she's giving back through board service with Winnebago Industries, Community Reinvestment Fund USA, the Greater Fairfield County Foundation, and with a BS from UC Davis and MBA at USC. Her journey is proof that when you combine vision, grit, storytelling, that you don't just market, you move people. So y'all seen her in the boardroom.
Boom.
Y'all seen that female quotient.
Well,
You want to see her at Black Week
that's for
2025 on the stage, tearing it down. And now she's here at your favorite podcast for the very first time. Let's introduce our sister, Miss Jacqueline Woods, y'all. Yeah. Sis,
Wow.
your resume is crazy.
Wow.
Thank you.
Nielsen,
Wow.
IBM, GE.
Wow.
Talk about it. First, before we get into it, first of all, thank you, sis. Once again, I'm going to reiterate it again. We love you.
Thank you.
We know what it takes to get there. What you had to sacrifice, what you had to do. We're going to go into the story, but we know what you had to endure to get there. And as sister arrives right back, I just want to, say we love you. We thank you. Thank you for paving the way. And for those listening, first time, what we like to do, we want to tell the whole story. So, sis, we love if you just tell us some influences growing up. Tell us some early stories. What was the family like? Because we want to know the mindset to how you get there.
Well, I always think it's interesting when I tell people that I'm a PK. So my father was a Methodist minister, AME Zion. My mother was a teacher and then a principal. So she's a retired principal. My father passed away in 2008. So for me, it was like I felt like I always had to be on my P's and Q's because I couldn't get away with much with both Geneva and John. That's just how that worked. But they, I think, paved a path. And I just think that I didn't have brothers and sisters. So really, it was my church family and the people in the community that I think gave me the greatest insight. And I just was admiring others and kind of, in my own head, wanted to emulate the success that I saw growing up.
But what did success look like growing up? How did you define that growing up early at a young age?
Well, I think it was a couple things. I mean, education was really, really big in my family, as you can imagine. Like, if you have a mother that's a teacher, there's like no kind of like getting away with not doing your homework. But a couple of things I think were transformative for me. So, for example, I knew that as a kind of a young Black kid that was growing up in an environment that wasn't actually majority Black. In the elementary school that I went to I think I was one of 3 or 4 Black kids in this elementary school. And because my church was predominantly Black, you kind of have these two separate worlds that you're kind of navigating.
Yeah.
And what was interesting to me is I had gone to school with these kids that I was, quote, in the smart group. And when I was in 5th grade, one of my teachers had given a set of kids. We all were like in the same group. You know how it is. You have the 7 people who they've identified as the people who are like, doing the things. And this man gave me straight A's at grade level. And then he gave all of the white kids that were in my same little group straight A's above grade level. Now, that was the first time that I was like, wait a minute, something's wrong. Why am I being treated differently? Like, how can we be taking all the same tests, getting the same scores, and then all of a sudden I'm not rated the same way? And yeah, I was only 10 years old when that happened. And it was, when you're 10, how do you quote have a wake up call when you're 10? You just know that at some point you're being treated differently.
Mm.
That was at the same time that, I wasn't around people who said negative things about us as a people. And in this kind of same time frame, one of the kids had like literally spit on me and called me the N word. And so
At 10?
Hell no. To the no, no.
at 10, I remember that like it was yesterday, honestly.
Mm-mm.
I remember it like it just happened to me. I will not repeat the kid's name. I still know his name. And so I'm now in this place where you're a little kid and you're thinking everyone's kind of the same and quote, we're all doing the same thing. And it was the first time that I really knew that I needed to learn how to advocate for myself. And if I didn't do it, like who was going to do it? So like, my mom was an educator. So I went to my mother and told her what happened. And John and Geneva went up to the school. And the one thing that I would tell anyone is, particularly in any system, they talk about it in healthcare. Oh, you got to go advocate for yourself because you may not be treated the same. If you don't advocate for your children when they are young, when they don't have the voice to advocate for themselves, they will certainly may fall, kind of in a place where they don't get equitable treatment. And that was a lesson to me. And of course, you know, after that, the next time that the grades came out, grades do you think I got? I got straight A's above grade level. And I say that because I should have got it the first time. Nothing changed. I was still getting the same scores, but it was someone who had decided how they saw me as compared to what my record was saying predicated on my test.
Mm.
And so
Yeah,
for me,
wait. We can't go past that though, Jacqueline. We cannot.
That's right.
Mm-mm.
We
Yeah.
know it's your story, so you kind of just reliving it, but that is monumental in shaping your psyche. That
it
is
is.
monumental in shaping your psyche, right? So let's just kind of unpack that a little bit, right? But you're older now, but I could imagine how frustrated you was, because being raised as a preacher's kid, right? A certain you instilled with a certain way to carry yourself as a young woman, a young lady within the church, under God and things of that nature, and being raised under an educator again, right? Your mother knowing the system and knowing more things than you do, how they treat Black and brown children versus children that are not. I could imagine that puts you in a very, very particular place where I can imagine you just wanted to. What was your initial reaction to that, though? I know you wanted to go home and tell mom and dad, but I know you wanted to react in the moment also.
Honestly, I had to grow a thicker skin because at that time I didn't have a thick skin. Like, I'm literally 10 years old. So I don't have a thick skin because I'm going around playing with my friends, doing what kids at that age do, got a Barbie doll, whatever, got a Chrissy, got all the things. And so I'm not even thinking that way until I saw what was being treated differently. So I don't think I was thinking about it. And to be honest with you, if I'm being, totally candid, I felt like fifth grade, I felt like I was crying every day. And because I didn't have anyone to advocate for me, and it wasn't like I had brothers and sisters. And so literally every day I felt like I was literally crying tears. And I just think that was such a painful time for me when I was growing up, because imagine when you know that you're smart. Like my test, I was reading at a 12th grade level when I was 10. So all of my test scores, all of my stuff said, this child is here. And you're trying to not just steal her joy, but you're trying to suppress her. And so and why would you do that to someone who's 10? And so for me at that time, I didn't know how to deal with it. And so during that time, I honestly was crying a lot. And then, like, at some point, two things happen, like self-preservation and God come together, and you figure out, like, I have to kind of rally for myself. I have to advocate for myself. And I remember that, even when I was talking to the teacher, from that point forward, the way that I was talking to him was like, when I say was like an adult, it was like matter of fact, like, these are my assignments. This is what I've done. I'm watching what's going on here. I know the scores of everybody else. And so I expect to be treated the same. And I had to literally, like, at that age, step up into that. And which is why I think sometimes, I can be just matter of fact, like just direct, because my thing is being indirect hasn't been helpful for most people in most situations. So you got to say what you want, and you have to say what you need. And that
Message.
was the moment that I knew that
Mhm.
I would forever need to behave differently than maybe some of my counterparts, because I wasn't going to be given the benefit of the doubt.
Mm.
Where
That's
where
so
where were you raised at, Jacqueline? What state? Where were you raised?
But I was raised in California,
Oh,
right? So
okay, California. Okay,
I was raised in Northern California,
okay.
which honestly, if you kind of think about it, the assumption is like, oh, that state doesn't have those kinds of concerns. That's not true.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
That's just not true.
right.
And I think every place has an opportunity to rise up and be great, or to kind of not and kind of live down to an expectation. And in that time, they were not being great.
yeah. So I'm just like, wow, what a childhood to have, and the lessons you learned. How did you bring them into like to your work today, into your life like now?
Well, one of the things I remember when I was uh, talking to, his name is Dr. Dennis Humphrey, and I've known him almost my entire life, probably since I was about 10 or 11 years old. And eventually, Dennis got a PhD, and he's an organizational development person. And he said to me, "You're I've always known you to be this way." And what he meant was, I've always known you to kind of fight for yourself. And he just didn't know me in fifth grade when I wasn't and couldn't fight for myself. And so, what I
Yeah.
would say of what that means in today's world is that I understand the what I would call levels of inequity that kind of surround us, and that we have to really pay attention to those, and then try to mitigate the situations where it doesn't feel as equitable as we would like for it to be. And the only way that I know to do that is really to advocate for yourself. And I know that sounds easier said than done, um, but what I will tell you is it's everyone, just like when I met Jared, and he is exactly what he said. He LinkedIn me, and and he also DM'd me in the Cans app, and I was like, "Hey, great! This is, I hadn't been to the festival before. This is my first time." He says, "Come see me, come through the," and he was just so supportive. And instantly, I felt like even though I hadn't been there before, I felt like I had a tribe. I was like, I don't have a tribe, but somehow I've like lucked into someone who contacted me and wants to be me to be like part of them and what they're doing. And so I would say for everything, you have to identify those persons that can be supportive of whatever your goals are. And to me, that's the first thing that you need to do. So everyone kind of doesn't really think about that in a intentional and methodical way. And you're not, quote, using people, you're just thinking about it with intentionality. Like, who do I need help to do X or Y? And the other thing that I would say is, just like Jared said, oh, she came and she sat in the front row. She did, because honestly, there is not a single person who's ever contacted me on LinkedIn that I probably haven't said yes to. That if someone reached out to me and they said, hey, I just have a question about this, or I need help with, for the most part, like, I mean, obviously I don't do it for everything, but for the most part, I try to be responsive, because when I'm responsive, I find that that just comes back to me in spades.
Message.
Yeah.
But how do you vet that though? I'm curious, you being who you are and what you've accomplished, right? For me, it could be some people I reach out to is stranger danger. With you, it was a different vibe. You was just like, yo, I'm there. I'm so glad. Like, I'm just curious, what was the interaction like before then? Like, how do you vet who to reach out to and who to connect?
Well, 100% I go to somebody's profile. Like, you know, I go to people's profiles. I try to understand what they've done, what their history is, what they, you know, all of the things. I don't just like all of a sudden, because of course, to your point, we all get people reaching out to us that's like, why would you reach out to me? We have nothing, there's nothing for us to talk about. I don't even know why you reached out to me. We all have that. But
It's what you want.
yeah, but what I would say is I do take the time to kind of go through the profile, look at who they are. I also look at who's connected to other people that I know. So if you contact me and there's nobody that we have in our circles that are connected, then it's probably a wrap. I'm probably not going to respond, because I don't know you. At this point, I don't, you have more followers than I do, but at this point, I have 11,000 people that are somehow in my network. And so if in my network, I can't find like at least 5 or 10 people that we have a connection to, then it means that it's probably not the right kind of
Message.
That's real.
I know we talking about it, but I feel like there's another part to standing up for yourself that I feel like a lot we don't talk about, and it's the accountability of the other person. It's the accountability of the other person.
I think that's true.
Right.
I think that's true. But the other thing that I would say, how many times have we been disappointed, even if it was our friend or somebody close to us that didn't respond in the way that we wanted them to?
No. I'm not talking about with the responding on a LinkedIn thing. I was talking about the situation that you went through.
Overall. Yeah. I mean overall. I don't mean LinkedIn. I just mean overall. Right. So how many times have we been disappointed when we didn't get, like, we thought that someone should understand that, hey, the way that they talked to us was inappropriate, or we thought that they should acknowledge that what they did truly wasn't fair or right. And you're sitting there saying to yourself, I don't know how you don't know that what you just did was like inappropriate, right? Just to be all cards on the table. You're sitting there having something happen to you. It's like you're having an out of body experience. Right? Like you're sitting there going through the thing, and it feels like you're watching yourself. You could be in a meeting. There are times that I've sat in meetings and I'm like, I feel like I'm having an out of body experience, because I'm watching what's happening to me in this moment, and I can't say anything, right? Because, you know, we will be labeled. That is true. Like I have to really synthesize, okay, what is it that, you know, if I said something and someone else said the exact same thing, it can be interpreted differently, even if it's the exact same words. And I don't think that people acknowledge that, particularly for Black women. I think it's particularly true, just because of the stereotypes that are out there. So, you're sitting there, you're literally in a meeting, you're having your out of body experience, because in your own brain, you're like, you're calculating of like, I think I need to say something, but when do I say what I need to say? How do I say it? To whom do I say it to? What is, like, all of that is happening, like, at the same time the meeting's going on, when you're sitting there looking at yourself in a meeting. That is 100% true. And
Yeah. No, I'm with that. I'm with that. I'm with all of that. My thing is just, you know how they say, like, we have to work twice as hard with less mistakes to make it to where our counterparts have the opportunity to make it to. By your parents coming and advocating for you, if there's no accountability for that teacher, first of all, he's a professional. See, it's different. It's different, right? When we're talking about a friend, that's different. When we're talking about people that have education, that have went to school and learned the thing, that's supposed to have training, and this is anybody with training and education, police over, etc., then what is the purpose of the training? Then what is the purpose of putting you through a process before you get a job if you're not going to be held accountable for your actions? Because what can happen is this: your parents said something. Let's say the next child that went through the exact same thing that you went through, their parent didn't say anything, right? So yes, the teacher will be mindful now of what he says to you, because maybe he doesn't want, your parents to come back. But if there's no record of what he's doing, then when you get out of his class, then he or she repeats the cycle again, because that's what they do, right? There's no accountability for that.
There's a kid that wasn't like you, Jacqueline, that didn't have the mindset. They might have said that too.
Right.
That's 100%. I think that's 100% true. Like, I 100% think that that's true. For me, it was clear that this teacher had a bias. I don't want to make it, I don't, for me, it's like, was it racial? It could have been. Was it, I will never know. I just know that I was the only one in the class. So the likelihood of that being true could be higher. But to your point, I agree with you that if you don't have someone who would advocate, I think that's how our kids sometimes get lost in the kind of shuffle, if you will, when there's not someone advocating, staying on top of it, and paying attention. I think you're 100% right. I also think you're 100% right when you say we rely on people to be accountable, right? We rely on people to be professional. We rely on people to check their bias at the door. But what I would also tell you is, often that just doesn't happen. So you have to pay attention, because regardless of whether we want it to be a more equitable environment, if it isn't, then you got to figure out, like, what do I need to do to navigate or mitigate what I see as a bias on the other side? And that's what's hard, Chadeo. Like, I would argue that, yes, I want people to be accountable. I want them to do the right thing, but I'm not waiting for that to happen.
Message.
No, I'm listen. I love it. The reason I ask that is because, again, this is why we have guests like you come on and tell that type of a story, because I can guarantee you 100 over 100, there are young men and women that have experienced the same exact thing that you have experienced, right? And look at what you said. You were fortunate enough to come from a two-family household. A lot of us are not fortunate enough to come from a two-family household. Maybe our parent is working or whatever the case may be, and we don't have that person to advocate for us, right? But like I said, it just becomes like, I'm so big on this accountability thing, because teachers are who we are entrusting our children's future to. Like, if there is an important job in the world, or ranked, like, a teacher would have to be like almost the #1 job in the world, because this is the person that we send our children to 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and we are entrusting their education and their well-being to these professionals, right? Professionals. So at a young age, if you start traumatizing our children by doing this and there's no action taken forward, then guess what happens? Sixth grade, it happens, you're okay with it. Seventh grade, it just becomes a spiral, like a snowball effect, that by the time you're an adult, you're almost desensitized to it. And now you don't say anything because it's commonplace for you now, because you've been now dealing with this thing your entire life.
But you mentioned thick skin though.
Yeah.
You mentioned the thick skin and you having that. What helped you? Like, what's some of the sauce that your parents gave you to help you develop that? Because when you rise in levels, it's different when you get into corporate. It's different when you're in high school. It's different when you're in college. It's a different game at each level. So, what helped you develop that thick skin at each level?
Honestly, I don't know. So when I tell you that I cried,
Sure.
I cried. And it still means that even today there may be things that hurt me. I'm not going to do that publicly, but I still feel like my heart is a soft heart. People who know me say, "Oh, she has a soft heart." I can be like, "This is what we're doing." ... But in general, people who really know me, they'll be like, "Oh, she has a soft heart." And so for me, I have an extreme amount of empathy, and so it is. When I say I became thick-skinned, I became thick-skinned, maybe not to show it, to not show my vulnerability, to not show that part of me, except for to the people who are closest with me or to me, that I feel that you can trust somebody with your soul, with your heart, with the things that you care about. And the people that you can't trust, like, quite frankly, we should stop talking to some people that we talk to in the office. Like, I see some of us are like telling everything. And it's like, is that information helping you or is it helping them? And anytime that information and data can be weaponized, it's generally weaponized against you. And so there, and so so in many ways, I think people need to be much more guarded than they are. Much, stop talking about everything happening in your life, because quite frankly, people are always making judgments about that. And even if they shouldn't, they do. So even when people go on vacation, they'll talk about, oh, so and so they just went, they were in the Greek Isles. Ooh. And almost you can hear it sometimes in a way that says, well, how did they do that? How did that happen? Whoever it is, it doesn't just, how did that happen? And so the more that you're putting out there for someone to evaluate you in a way that adds bias in a way that may not be positive, it's like, try to reduce that. Try to reduce it to the extent that you can. That doesn't mean you don't say, oh, I had a nice weekend or whatever, but it doesn't mean you have to give every detail about what you're doing.
Message.
Even when of course, even when the way we dress, I mean, I don't know, there was an article that I read, and this was when I was at NielsenIQ, and it was talking about, it was an article, and I can't remember. It was Ipsos or another one of those firms. I believe it was Ipsos, but the article was about how the tradition of Black people dressing up, quote, putting on their Sunday best, etc. And if you think back to why that happens, it was really because there's a perception of us that is not positive when we don't dress a certain way. There's a perception. And so that is maybe less so today, but it still exists. Like, if you guys are walking in a store, it happens to you where you're profiled, or if you had on some saggy pants versus someone else who didn't. And so there's this thing about us having to kind of put on a veneer, whether that veneer is clothes, whether that veneer is a smile, whether that veneer is a certain way that we have to show up in order to try to be not judged in a way that's negative. That is real. We have to do that. that adds a layer of complexity through everything that we do, right? I remember when my son has, like, he has dreads, and he was interviewing, and I was like, look, Tyler, I don't know if we can, I'm older than you. I don't know what people are doing. People used to be like, I know that we've had a hair revolution. I don't know how revolutionized everybody is. Like, put it in a ponytail, dude, or like, like have it be neat, because I don't know who you're interviewing with. I don't know who you're talking to. I don't know who's going to judge you in a way that could not be positive, when this kid went to Stanford and Wharton. So at the very end, he should be like, look at my credentials, right? But you always think to yourself, what is the lens that people are filtering me through?
Message.
I gotta ask you this though. Everything you said is correct, and we've had Dr. Knowles on the show, and also Jay Alexander said this. He said you got to dress how you want to be addressed. That's one thing that always stuck with me. But also in my professional career, I did best when I was this.
Mm-hmm.
When I showed up with the hat and the hoodie on, I was one of the global account managers for Hootsuite. I had a $3.5 million book. I had one customer churn in a year. One customer out of 80 customers, right? When I first came to my first town hall, I was like, should I do this? Should I do that? I came in there with my hat, sitting Indian style on my couch, in the same couch we parked from, with a hat and a hoodie. And everybody looked at me and said, I like that. The next town hall 2 weeks later says, you know what happened? People got Kangos on. They got bucket hats. They got all types of shit on. And I've had people that come out, I was like, yo, I'm actually gay, but like I've told my manager that I'm this because I want to be myself. We shouldn't subscribe to that old way of thinking. So I'm on the balance of, yes, you're right about that, but I'm also about I don't care about them because I care about the performance of it, right? So what do we balance?
But let's unpack that.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's unpack what you just said, right? The first thing you said was, in an entire year, I lost one account. I had a $3.5 million quota. So essentially, you were performing. So regardless of what was happening, you were performing. Now, you could show up with like the, whatever, the red clown nose and some red hat and be like bozo, and people are like going to be like, oh, Jared killed it, right? Because you're performing. And so I do think there's a difference when you're performing versus, is that your first meeting when I don't know you? And what I mean by that is, after you already had the job, you once you're doing good and you're killing it, you can do whatever you want to do. When you don't know what the culture is, right? Yep. So what I'm saying is, you may not know what the culture is. And so sometimes it's just better to err on the safe side and kind of just be neutral. And then you can while out any way you want to after you're in and you're like more in control of what's happening. Because yes, you're right. You're like, look, and I got my hat on backwards. And by the way, my hat on backwards helps me talk to person X, Y, and Z. They like this version of me. That's a different thing. You've already established yourself. I'm talking about when you haven't established yourself and you're talking to somebody for the first time, and you could be talking to someone who's not vibing on that, then you don't want them to have a reason to not have that second meeting.
No, you're 1,000% right. But when is enough for us, and when we perform? When is enough? There is no guideline of when is enough. Is it 3 million? Is it 4 million? Is it 5 million when I can have stability in my job? That's a problem with a lot of us that are from the culture, sis. Because it's like when
I agree. I feel bad that I told someone today that the goal line keeps moving. I know that it's not fair, and I don't know if that's ever going to change. I don't know if that's going to change, but let's just acknowledge that that's a true statement. Right? The goal line you achieve, and then it's like and then all of a sudden you're having to do more and more and more. And I don't know if our jobs, or I don't know anyone, and this is maybe a sad statement to say, and I don't like, how many people do you know that just go, yeah, I'm secure in my job?
Too many. Not me, my friend.
I just, that's just not something that I honestly see. I think we always have a healthy paranoia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to just add to this though, Jacqueline. Like, you know, um,
Real.
I admire your story because I can relate a lot of things to myself. As a child, I kind of knew who I was very, very early. I knew I was extremely intelligent, and I knew who I was. Right. It plays into your psyche. Right. Perfect example. Like I've always dressed in colors. Like I hate black. I've always hated looking like everybody else, right? I don't want to look like everybody else, right? I want to be an individual. That is what powers my psyche. That is what powers my motivation. That the natural hair, the dreadlocks. It's a self-expression thing, right? So I respect everything you're saying. I think the balance is just, and it's extremely difficult. It's trying to find the balance with showing up as your authentic self, where you feel like I'm not covering this thing up too much, but I'm showing up in a way that is presentable, that you can be satisfied with. Because we've run into a lot of horror stories also, Jacqueline. We've had people come on the show, like Cuzzo just said, when is enough enough? And you've had this veneer on so long that you don't even know what it is not to have it on now anymore.
It became dentures. I got to take
Right. They're permanent now. They're permanent. You don't even know what you look like without the veneer now. You've lost yourself because you've been wearing and performing to what you think the standard is for so long, right? That you actually start to forget who you are as a person, right? And that's what we're saying. Like, I just think that
I think that's true. I
has to be
mean,
a balance in that.
yeah, I think first of all, I'm not encouraging anyone not to be themselves and not to be authentic, because I think it's very hard to not own who we are. I think it's very hard to kind of show up in a way that goes against like your personal how you feel as a, not just as a person, but your values, right? I have worked for people that I thought at times didn't have the same values that I had, and that was hard. Like that was honestly, um, I remember a time when I was showed up in the office, sitting in my car in my parking lot, and I was like praying before I went inside to the office, because I was like praying to make it through. And that's when I knew that I wasn't in the right place, not because I had to that I needed to be prayerful, but I was like, God, this is the least thing that I should be asking God about, like just to make it through the day. Like I literally was praying to make it through the day because I felt that I was in a toxic environment. And the toxicity was many of the things that you've described, where I felt like I was having to pretend this and having to be that and having to do these things. And I was like jumping through hoops and just honestly not being myself, and feeling not even validated, right? Because if you have to be someone else, that means someone is invalidating who you are.
Message.
And that is a horrible feeling. And so I knew that that was a situation that I needed to get out of. I mean, and I write honestly, like I told you guys earlier, that I have a book coming out in February, and I talk about that specifically because living in a place that where are just like feeling like you're an egg that's Humpty Dumpty on a wall getting ready to have a great fall, or whatever it is, where you feel like just everything around you is collapsing, or you feel that the oxygen is taken out and you can't breathe. That is a horrible feeling. And I don't want anyone feeling that way. We have, and I kind of feel like if people are in that situation, I don't think they should stay at the company. but I also know how we feel insecure in getting another job. We can't just turn that on and turn it off. Let me just, I was at Hootsuite. Let me go do this. I'm gonna just go over here for a second to, sendable. I'm gonna just go be at some other place. I'm gonna do all these things. That's not as easy for us sometimes. So sometimes we're in a situation where we're having to navigate those difficult situations, and that is hard. And to the point that you asked about holding other people accountable, the only way you hold other people accountable is when you express what you're feeling and how someone is making you feel, right?
So
People are responsible for how they make you feel. And if you don't ever tell them, then they get away with not being accountable.
It is.
and so I'm just tell you before we go to your career, I'm just gonna tell you my experience. When I did that, it was tough. So I was the first. So I don't know if I ever told you this, sis. I was the first employee at Can. I opened up the New York office.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Before Simon became CEO, I was the business development rep keeping the lights on. Straight like that. I didn't know what it was, what we were doing, all that other stuff. It was tough. And I was selling, then I'm a top seller and all that other stuff. And then I went to the agency side because I wanted a lion. I went to a VP. I was a VP of the agency. Because I'll tell you, I had an office overlooking the Empire State Building. Everybody, people there was 10, 15 years. They're looking at me like I'm crazy. Side corner office, all that. I'm closing deals. I closed a $1 million deal. My CEO changed the commission structure on the back end. On the back end. I said how I felt. She said, okay, what you gonna do about it? I had to quit on the spot. And 26 years old, as a young black man, as a VP, I should be able to get a job. I'm a VP at 26. I didn't get a job for a year. And guess what? You know what I had to go to? I had to go to an account executive. From a vice president to account executive. And I had to build that back up when our counterparts get to fail forward. And that's the shit that kills me. It kills me. I'm just as talented as you. When I was doing that shit at Hootsuite, I did 1.5. They kept everybody else but me. And I did all that stuff, the stuff that you can't measure. The stuff that you can't measure. I'm interviewing the CEO, the CMO, got him on this podcast. We own the IP on that. They were episode 2 and 3. The CEO and the CMO. Had them on the podcast. I'm closing deals. I'm doing all this. Customers are happy. Everybody's singing my praises, but you let me go. Why is that? So I got to the point where I had to go and call Cuzzo. We're sitting in Miami. What are we going to do? Because this can't happen no more. We know we're good. But I'm tired of asking. I'm tired of being there. I'm tired of wearing the veneers.
And I just want to add a caveat to that, and I know we're going to get off it. The extra frustration comes from you want us to pretend that we're not a thing, yet and still everything about us culturally, you copy.
Message.
How about that? So you copy our hair, you copy our look, you copy technically the way our bodies are shaped and et cetera, our style, our way of cooking, everything that you want us to pretend we are not naturally, you copy, you monetize from it, and you steal from us because you steal our ideas if we're not able to, properly put them forth business-wise and things of that nature. This has happened hundreds of thousands of times. And we don't get credit and we get robbed all the time. So that is the caveat. And that's just my frustration to add to it. You want us to keep pretending that we're not a thing or you hate a thing, but yet you copy a thing. And when you do it, it's okay now.
It's the thing.
It's the thing now. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
We ain't gonna go too deep.
That's all I wanted to say.
You know what I'm saying? We might need a sponsor.
The one thing that I have to say, because I think it's important, right?
To assist.
Yeah. Because my parents were part of the civil rights movement. My uncle was a prominent player with Martin Luther King, was with him when he was assassinated, et cetera, et cetera. And what I have been reflecting on, particularly over the last year, like this didn't just come. And remember, I'm older than you guys. So this is more me kind of having tire tracks on my back, all these things. And how you feel is legitimate. So I'm never going to say that what you're feeling is not true, what you're feeling is not accurate, how you feel is not frustrating. What I do want you to kind of hold on to, though, is if I look at what you're doing with the podcast, if I look at what you're doing that's positive, no one can take those things away from your success. My I had one of my, literally my best friend's husband went through exactly what you went through, Jared, at a young age, was some executive director or something, blah, blah, blah. Something happened with the board. They got mad at him. Boom, he was out. And the thing is that I do know is that we are resilient. And so to me, it's for every time that I've gotten knocked down, it's been hard, but I've gotten back up.
Message.
And for every time that I felt like that wasn't fair, 100% it wasn't fair. Like, it wasn't fair. But my father always told me God's vision for you is always greater than the vision that you have for yourself. And that's always been true. Every single time when I feel like, I don't know if I can go on, and this happened, and I didn't like the way that felt. Every single time, it's kind of like a plant coming out of cement in the sidewalk. You just pop up. For everyone that's trying to keep you down, you will pop up. I promise you. I promise. I mean, I have a thing about that I always say, if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, you'll keep going. And that is hard. There was, when my father died, that was one of the hardest things I ever went through. He was the person who always told me I was going to be okay. And now I didn't have someone to tell me that. And, we all go through things that are adversarial, or we go through things that are challenging and difficult. But I swear to you, I promise you, if you keep your own blinders on and focused on the thing that you know to do for what you want to do to be great, you will be great, period.
You gotta listen to him, you learn something.
You gotta listen. She learned a thing or two. You gotta listen to her. You learn a thing or two.
There's no one that can stop you. There's no one that can stop you from being great.
Wow. So we already an hour in and just so many gems. But now, right? Now I want to get into your career. Like, you just graduated, you first started. Like, what does that look like? What is that transition?
When I got out of college, and that was funny because I was actually, at the time I was dating, he's now my husband, but at the time we were just dating, and we were both trying to, like, you're like, I'm trying to get a job over where you are, and he was trying to get a job where I was. And it just so happened that I ended up at GTE, which is now Verizon. And that was, I got a job through a job fair. I hate that young people now don't have those kinds of experiences. That's how you had a whole bunch of resumes, and you went to a job fair and you just talked to a whole bunch of people. And Ramel Isung, who I'm still friends with her, she was the HR person who literally gave me my first job, or she got me my first set of interviews, right? And then that's how I got my first job. And I'm still friends with her to this day. And the job fair that I went to was an Urban League job fair in Los Angeles. And the man who was like all world at that time, his name was John Mack. Like, everybody knew him. He was like all world. And they used to have this job fair, and that's how I got my first job.
What was that first title? You started at the bottom. What was it look like with that thick skin developing, learning the game?
This was crazy. Okay. So so in college, I had worked at a video store, and I had literally literally done canning tomato inspection for the state of California. Those were my job. Those were my internships. I was a canning tomato inspector for the state of California. We worked 7 days a week. We worked shifts that were 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for 6 days, and you got 1 day off during tomato season. That was my job. I interviewed with this guy named Mike Walsh. He was the manager, right? And back in those days, the manager got to go to the executive dining room. They had like all these perks and benefits. You don't get crap now. I don't care if you're a VP, EVP, blah blah blah. You don't get anything. So he asked me like what I did, and I told him that I would have been like a canning tomato inspector, and I explained how to like do the inspection. And this is what he said to me. He said, anyone who can describe and explain how canning tomato inspection is done the way you did is someone that I need to hire. And I tell people that story is because I had absolutely no experience. My first job was a supervisor in finance in payroll. So I was like over an entire payroll department at 22, 23 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. And it wasn't even like faking it till I was making it. I was just like, well, this man told me I could do it. And I know. So I just showed up and I just learned. And I had some very nice people who worked for me, who knew I was a little kid at that time. And just, they understood that they worked for me, that I was the manager, I was the supervisor. And they just treated me well, which is another reason why I have always treated people well. I was a top 10 money raiser for UNCF when I was like 25 years old. And one of the guys his name was Mo. And I went around to everybody, like in my whole office. I didn't know all these people. I just asked them, would they sponsor me for the United Negro College Fund? Now, I'm telling you, it wasn't even like there were Black people in this office. Like you could count them on one hand. I asked everybody. This man named Mo happened to be, he was like what they call in the telephone world. He was like a cable splicer, climbing telephone poles, blah, blah, blah. He happened to be in the office. He said to me, you know why I like you? I was like, no, I don't know why you like me. He's like, I like you because you don't care whether the person is the president or the assistant or whoever the person, you treat everybody the same way. That has stuck with me my entire life. I didn't know that I was doing that, but subconsciously, it's just the way that I behave. And so for me, I've always been able just to kind of say, whatever environment that I'm in, I'm going to respect the person no matter who that person is. And that has served me well. So white, Black, brown, purple, that has served me well in my ability to, get along and navigate in environments that we're just not as familiar with.
Oh.
I'm sorry for the double. I beat him to the punch.
Hold on. A tenth of a second. A tenth of a second.
I'm still in Puerto Rico. I'm still nice with these. Don't play with me. I'm still the
he just wanted to do it because you've been doing it more, so he was getting jealous over there.
He said I had to let him know. Bow, bow, bow.
He was getting jealous because he was like, "Oh, he keeps doing that. Wait a second, I'm gonna do it too."
I agree. I agree with that theory. 100%. You should treat people as human beings first. Treat people like you want to be treated, right? Like the age-old saying, right? Do unto others, right? As you want others to do unto you. So, we talk about that. We live that. We preach that. That is one of the models that we live by. That's why we can have a show like this and have so many high executive people come on, and we can do interviews. And then after an interview, we can go and get a burger or a beer at a lounge and it not be a problem, or go get some haircuts or go sightseeing and just see the city, because we treat them like people, right? Not like, oh, we're only treating you this way because of your title and things of that nature, right? So I definitely believe that. And the second part to that is because you never know, just because a person starts a place, where they're in. So a perfect example of the story that Cuzzo said, Simon Cook, I believe, started in the mailroom or something, right?
the mailroom. He was
He was
in
in
a
the
room
mailroom.
that you couldn't even. He was like developing pictures like Polaroids. It was all
Right.
up in a dark room. I'm like, what is this? Submissions? What are
Right.
you talking about? Like, I don't know what he's doing. But I'm going downstairs to get a coffee. You want one, bro?
Right.
Do you want one? No, I'm good. Okay, cool. But that stuck with him.
Right.
It stuck with him. I asked nobody in the office, 100 people, big essential office. Nobody asked him if he wanted a coffee.
Or if he wanted anything, because technically he was invisible to them. Right.
That's what we're talking about.
And then he ends up becoming the CEO of the agency.
And now when it's like, come to our podcast, he's seen us at Black Week last year. It was hugs. It wasn't just like, it was hugs.
Right.
Like, yo, are you good? I'm so proud of you. I'm this. What do you need from us? You need something from me? Cool. You're coming to Cannes this year? Call me. Do this. Do that. Let's get coffee. It gets crazy during, Cannes time, but I will make time for you. That means more than anything.
Yeah.
No, it does. It really does.
It's the village, Jacqueline. We talk about relationship building. What you're essentially doing is solidifying your village, right? Because you might be a place and doing a thing at a certain level now, but that doesn't mean that you're always going to be there, right? And that doesn't mean the people that you pass right on the way up won't be somewhere else that might be able to give you an opportunity somewhere else when you're not there, right? And that we've had those experiences. Me personally, I've had that type of experience, and I know people have had that experience with myself as well, because I started from the bottom. Like Cuzzo said, I started very young, worked my way up, apprenticeships and things of that nature. And a lot of people that didn't treat me right were very shocked once upon a time when they walked into a different job and they're asking, who the leadership is. And they're like, you're standing next to him. And I don't even say nothing. I just, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Welcome to, oh yeah, where's the so-and-so? Yeah, you're standing right next to him. And the look on their face is enough, right? The look on their face is enough, because instantly, like, how they say, like a flashback, instantly you flash back to all the things that you said and did that was inappropriate when you felt like you were in a better position. And now you're wondering, am I going to reciprocate that same energy to you, or am I going to be the more mature person?
But I do, and I feel like me and Sis on the same energy.
Yeah.
I feel like because we sitting there, we texting like, yo, we thinking the same questions, right? So I'm gonna sit there and ask you, Sis, when did you know you was the one? When was that moment when you're in work and you're like, you have the relationships, but when do you know I'm the one? I am confident. I am qualified. I'm going to be this. When was that moment for you?
When I had a poster when I was a kid that said, the only mistake I've ever made was when I thought I was mistaken and then I was wrong.
Message.
That was kind of deep, but hold on. No, hold on. Say that one more time. That was fly as fuck. I had to let that marinate. I had to say it twice.
No. The only mistake I ever made was when I thought I was mistaken and then I was wrong. And so I literally had that. I found that poster like as a kid. And then I bought it somewhere, and then I had this on my wall in my room. And I just felt like I needed to own that. Not that I never made a mistake, and not that I wasn't ever wrong with something, just the fact of being confident in what you can be confident in and owning that confidence. Because if you don't own that confidence, people will try to take it away from you.
Message.
It's easier said than done, Sis. You know that. It's just, you say so eloquently.
Oh my God, it's way easier said than done. Right? It's way easier said than done. But if you don't do it, who will? Right? If you don't believe it, then who will believe it? Right? If you don't say to yourself, and I have this conversation with my daughter all the time, because she will, if she was here right now and was sitting with us, she would say, oh, I don't have the type of confidence that my mother has, or I think differently. And my thing is, this is a muscle that gets built over time. It's not something that someone is born with. Every day you have to wake up and say, I was never an actor, but can you imagine, like, you're getting turned down all the time. You're getting turned down way more than someone's picking you for a part, but you still have to kind of say, I believe I'm good enough. I believe I'm the one. everyone's not going to be Meryl Streep, where you remember there was a time when she got picked for everything. You know, whatever the thing was, she was getting picked. And I'm sure everybody else was like, gosh, I'm in her age group. I'm this, I'm never getting picked. I remember when I was at Oracle and I said to I didn't even, I'm being honest with you, I didn't know what a chief marketing officer was when I was like a director or senior director. I just knew like at some point I was like, I want to be a vice president. I want to be a vice president. I was like, I'm not lying. I was like my parents weren't in corporate. I didn't know what these things were. I was like, I want to be a vice president. I want to be a VP. How can I be a VP? And then when I got to be a VP, I was like, oh, this, like, I can do this thing. I mean, this, like, I can do it. But then in my own head, I wanted to be like, I started learning about people that were in the C-suite. And in my own head, I said, I want to be a CMO. I want to be, I'm gonna be a CMO one day. I'm gonna figure out how to do it. And I took a non-conventional route because it wasn't like I was in brand. It wasn't like I would work for an agency. I was working at a technology company. I was working at Oracle. I was in strategic marketing. I was running pricing. And in my own head, I was like, I love this place, but I need to navigate to someplace else because there are things that I know that I need to do in order for me to ever achieve being a chief marketing officer. I didn't know what that roadmap was. I just knew that I needed different types of experiences. And so there wasn't a map. There wasn't like, do this job, do this job, do this job, do that job, and that's going to happen. But what I will tell you is I was like, at some point, I was like, I want to be that. And I'm just going to figure out how to navigate to get to that thing.
So what was the figuring out? I sold to Oracle, was one of my biggest clients. So I used to sell to Oracle. I've never met nobody like you, Jacqueline. On the executive show, what was that like to move up to that rank within the boys club, within Oracle, to move up there and say, I'm the CMO? That is major.
Well, here's the thing. I felt like, so I tell people this story, and it's one of the things where I'm just like, I don't know whether like these things are always unbelievable at the time that they're happening. So I told my husband worked at Oracle. We were still living in Illinois. We were planning to move back because now I'm pregnant with my daughter. And you know how it is. Once you have more than one kid, everybody figures out that they need help. One kid is you're cool. Two kids, it's like, oh my God, feels like four people. So we wanted to move back to California. So my husband starts sending in my resume to Oracle because I told my husband at the time, I really want to work for Oracle. And he didn't understand why, but I'm gonna tell you why. I told him Oracle was one of the first company that had same-sex benefits. So I was like, if they feel that way about a group of people who people are essentially not supporting, then then they must feel okay about Black people. That's how my brain said that.
Message.
Also, Larry Ellison had a Black president of sales in the late 90s. His name was Mike Fields. He was the first person that I knew that had a Black president in a technology company. That's when I knew that I felt Larry was someone who was like merit based. So I felt like if I go and I just do the work and I do a good job, I will be rewarded accordingly. That turned out to be true and was the best decision that I ever made.
Message.
Working at Oracle, because it was a meritocracy. People, you had to show up, and it was a TMP, take no prisoners. So everybody rolled up in there like, and you had to kill it, right? But if you killed it, you would be recognized. Now, I was fortunate because at the time, somehow I was hired by Karen White, who was at the time, she was a CMO, right? So she hired me to run strategic marketing. She leaves, and somehow I have made friends with Safra Katz, who is the current CEO of Oracle. But at the time, she wasn't. She had started and she was in the office of the CEO, working directly for Larry. She said to me, well, we're going to be in the office of the CEO. I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to be in the office of the CEO. So you know what I'm saying? So at a very young age, similar to what you said, I was in the office of the CEO. So I was in the office working for Safra and Larry. That experience was invaluable. When I was picked as one of Fortune magazine's 50 most powerful Black executives in corporate America, Larry brought me one of his jackets and said, uh, "You're a long way from Chicago." Now he grew up in Chicago. He grew up in Illinois. So
Larry Ellison,
yeah, so he brings me this this jacket from America's Cup. I still have it in my closet right now. I still have it. He brings me this jacket, tells me how proud he tells me how proud he is of me. When I said to myself at the time, Judy Sim was for all intents and purposes, she was the CMO. Judy and I were a similar age. I knew that I couldn't stay at Oracle because she was the person. We were the same age. She was gonna be it. I knew that I had to navigate away. And when I told Larry Safra and Chuck Phillips that I had gotten recruited by GE, they had a party for me. Larry came, Safra came, and Chuck Phillips came and said, "We are proud of you." And how I managed that was I knew they would be proud of me if I went to a company that they thought was better than Oracle.
Message.
They looked at it as me elevating myself. And that I'll never forget too. So I had things like that. That is some of the lows that I explained earlier. I've had things that were highs, and then I just tried to leverage those highs and try to build on whatever they gave me. But I knew that every single person, I can tell you, whether it's Jeremy Burton, whether it's Sohaib Abbasi, whether it's Mark Benioff, Salesforce, right?
Talking
I,
about
when Mark was building, there was we used to meet twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, for what we called the PDMC, the Product Development Management Committee. Mark Baranche was in there. No, sorry, Mark Benioff was in there. I was there. Mark Baranche is the CEO of OpenText. I was there. So that you can't, that's invaluable experience. There's no amount of money, nothing that no one can ever take that away from me. Jeremy Burton was the president at Dell. Like all of the people that I was surrounded by, who, by the way, were all white men who were very supportive of me, and they all turned, and so that's why I said it's sometimes people try to make it a black and white thing. It's about who are you going to get to be on your team that believes in you and that can help you get to where you want to be.
Message.
And I tell you that to me was where I got my formative years of the thing that I knew would catapult me to whatever success I was going to have. And I'm telling you, if you work for those guys and you can survive it, you can work anywhere.
For context, Larry Ellison, the world's richest man as of, he was about 2 weeks ago, is giving her a tablet saying that he loves her work. This is who she's working on. Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, one of the biggest companies in the world that she's around. Like, that had to be intimidating and so crazy at the same time, also like benefiting, and then also like you're watching how they move, you're taking a little bit, you make your own calls.
But it's so funny because one, we were all younger, right? So everybody was young, and you're just kind of doing it. You're just doing the thing, and that's what I love about technology. That's what I loved about Silicon Valley. That's what I love, because I felt like it was if you were smart and did the work, you were going to be rewarded. And I know that's not true in all places, but that's how I felt growing up in technology. technology. I don't think that I would have gotten the same trajectory if I had been in maybe some other industry. I really just don't.
I'm in awe.
Right place at the right time. But you know, I think what helped you feel comfortable also is the fact that like you said, you had that solid upbringing, right? You had your father telling you that you could do a thing. You had that support system that you built your foundation on, right?
Correct.
And you went in there, and again, you just did what you did naturally, and you let your talent shine.
Up, chest up.
I commend them for that. And like, ladies and gentlemen, by no shape, form, or fashion do we advocate that there are no people on the other side of the aisle that, you know, would help us. That's not what we talk about on this show. What we talk about is if a person has a specific experience, acknowledging the experience for what it is and not making excuses for it.
Talk about
We
it.
want to learn about it. We want to get the education out so that we can just ensure that if it was a negative experience, that hopefully it doesn't happen again, or it doesn't happen as frequent. But if it was a positive experience, as Jacqueline just said, she was given the opportunity by a lot of these men, that we understand that as well. So just in case that you're in those rooms or you're around these people, then you can say, well, I know that Jacqueline had a good experience and I might know another person. So like she said, then it would fair to say that if I'm around these people, that I would have a great experience as well too, you know. And the thing about that is you have to go in when you're in those situations and you're not the smartest person in the room. You put your head down and you shut up. You shut up and you learn. That's the key to that. You go in and you just, like a sponge, you just absorb. And because without you asking for it, technically they are mentoring you.
Right.
That's what they are. They're mentoring you, right? They are preparing you for what they believe is what's next in your future, without saying directly, hey, Jacqueline, we're going to mentor you. Pay attention, right? They're going to say, we want to see if she realizes where she is and what the opportunity could be, and if she capitalizes on that. So kudos to you for capitalizing on it, you know? Yeah, I'll give you a clap for that. You know what I'm saying? That's
I mean,
amazing. That's amazing.
But to your point, like,
Yeah.
I've had some lemons too, right? I've had some people who weren't that what I just described.
Right.
I haven't named their names because I'm not gonna lift anybody up who wasn't helpful. But I only say that because I do think it's important to acknowledge those people who were helpful and who I think were supportive. But trust me, I had some lemons.
Right.
I have some scars from some of the folks who really were not so nice.
I could dig it. I want to touch bases a little bit about the family dynamic, because we hold that in high regard on this show also.
So-
well, you jumping in? Good. Not that.
Yeah.
Family aspect. Before we get to family.
Yeah, before we get to him, I want to stay right here for a real second.
Okay.
So now that you've built these relationships and mentors, how do you keep up with them today, right? Because you're all big names, everyone's busy. And then part two of that question, how did you manage, right, the lemons? How did you heal the wounds, and get back up and move on to the next
question?
I love that question.
Yeah.
I think,
Fire.
first of all, I would never say that I was necessarily good at it. I feel like over time, you know, you have a thing and you fall down and then you get back up and you try again. But you get knocked down, you're not sitting up there like, I got knocked down, let me just get back up. That doesn't happen. Like, when you get knocked down, you're like, wow, I, you know, someone just punched me in my face or punched me in the gut. And so, you know, it's about who is in your support network, whether that is a spouse, whether it's your friends, whether it's other colleagues that you may have had along the way. You need a support network, because you're going to be questioning yourself as to, well, what did I do wrong, or what happened here, or why didn't that go the way that I thought it was going to go? And most of the time, you know, whatever it is, you didn't get picked for the job you wanted, etc. You know how that is. People like who they like. So sometimes we take that personally. And we need to not do that, but we all do it. Like, I still do it. Like, why didn't I get picked? You know?
Talk about it. Shit.
Message.
Like, wait a second, I had this, that, and a third, and why didn't I get picked? Like, and then if you kind of then start comparing yourself to maybe someone who got picked, you're like, and I have more than the person who got picked. And we all do that, but we all know that there's all kinds of intangibles that happen. And so you just kind of have to fight that mentally as well, which goes back to what I said earlier about being resilient. You've got to be the grass growing in the crack in the sidewalk to the light, because you will still grow. And even when someone tried to hold you back, I guarantee you will always show up further than they do. Always. Always. For the person that's trying to hold you down, they're just too busy trying to hold you down. And while they're holding you down, you're popping up someplace else, and you will always grow faster and higher, just like Jack and the Beanstalk.
Thank you for that. Okay, now we can go into Chad's question.
I'm saying, did you have a second part? Because what you asked is almost the same thing of where I was going anyway, because she alluded to it already. But go ahead. Do you have a second part, right?
No, I was gonna say no. She answered my question.
Okay. Yeah. So it's almost the same thing when I said about the family. It's how are you navigating this? Because you spoke on the fact that not only did you have a spouse, but now you've given birth to 2 children. How did you now navigate working these spaces? So it's almost the same question. It's just involving the family and the village. So we always think the same anyway. So you're working a lot of nights. You're in the C-suite, right? But you're still a mom, right? To a son now and a daughter, right? You have a husband to take care of, but now navigating, climbing this ladder, you want more. That's very time consuming, right? Are you bringing your work home with you? Like, so that's, what does that look like? Yeah.
First of all, I think there isn't balance. Like, people like to talk about, people have balance, this and that. That's not true. You don't have balance. Right. You don't have balance. So I think it's realistic when people go, I have balance. There are times when I was totally out of balance, right? I'm giving everything to my job and not giving enough to my family. And then you feel that, because you feel the strain of, you miss something for your kids, or now you're 2 ships passing in the night, you're traveling, then your husband's traveling the next week, and then it's like 2 weeks, and it's like, gosh, when was the last time I saw you? And so those things are honestly pretty tough. And there are sacrifices, right? So I feel like I was very fortunate, because my husband has always and is very supportive of me and my career. Like, we have moved for 2 times for jobs that I've got, like twice across the country. And not everyone would do that, and not everyone would support that. And you got to know who your partner is, and that's something that you need to know in the beginning of your relationship. Like, you can't be in a relationship and then wake up and go, oh, this person doesn't want to support my dream. I think that one of the things that I tell my daughter and my son, one of the reasons why I married my husband, I told him that he was ambitious. And what I mean by that is, I knew that together he wanted to do something and build something. So it wasn't me like, I want to be X and he wanted to be Y. It was like, he wanted to build something too. And so that to me is what attracted me to him, and is probably also what attracted me to him, and him to me. And so I think that when people talk about, being unevenly yoked or being yoked in the way, you got to get somebody that wants to do what you want to do. It's very hard if one person wants to, do, I don't know. I don't ever want to try hard. And here you are trying 4 times harder. That just generally doesn't work. It's not about the money. It's about the effort. So what are you going to build together? And if the person doesn't want to build something together with you, they're also not the right person for you. I got all kinds of things. Not the right job, quit the job. Not the right person, find somebody else.
Message.
That's real.
Yeah.
You mean that's real as it gets.
I mean, like, it just you shouldn't be wasting time because is a job. How many jobs have you stayed on that have changed? How many of the jobs have changed? Right? The job doesn't change. So if you don't like what's happening in the job, you need to change that. If you're within a relationship, you can't change a person. If they're not quote checking for you, supporting your dream, you're trying to go to school, do this. My husband and I both went to graduate school after we were married. That was hard. We were like, I had to go to school. I had to study. He had to go to school. He had to study. I had to understand. He had to understand. Now imagine if I was the person was like, well, we didn't, I don't know. We haven't been out to dinner in like a month and blah, blah, blah. Imagine if I was that person. I wasn't that person. The person that I was, okay, let's get this MBA because this is what this is going to do for both of us. He was like, you get your MBA because this is what's going to be doing for both of us. If you don't have someone that is invested in your success, I would argue they're not the right person for you. And again, job not invested in your success, get another job. Relationship, the person's not invested in your success, is that the right relationship? Because think about how happy are you going to be 2 years from now when you figure out that they still aren't invested in your success.
Message.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking.
She's good. No, she's good. No, she's good. No, she's good. But I do gotta actually, we talk about Black relationships a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of successful Black women coming on the show that are not married, right? That is like it's hard to find somebody that's on the same mind frame as me. And as a man, right? Like it's like my lady's right here, right now. We was sitting there in DR, we was just on the strip. And I'm like, I gotta be at 6:30. I'm talking to Jacqueline. I don't care nothing. And she's right here. She didn't complain, didn't do nothing, right? But how did your husband feel when he gave you the Oracle plug, and now you're talking to Larry Ellison and them, right? Because it's still a man thing. It's like, I want to be the one that gets to kill the buffalo, hunt the buffalo, bring the buffalo home, right? Like it's hard to get out of that mindset when you're a go-getter that like you are.
I mean, it's funny because my husband played Division I football. So he was like the second most recruited person in Southern California. Yeah. And so he's always been very competitive, but he's got how somebody says silent but deadly. Mm-hmm. That's like his mentality. Like he's not someone who's like flashy and all out there. He's just very like, I'm committed to this. And it's interesting because my husband was raised by his grandparents. So his mother was a single mother, right? His grandmother and grandfather were like, okay, you're 19 to his mom, like, we're not letting you raise this child by yourself. So he was raised by his grandparents. He was fortunate. He knew that the only way that he was going to go to college was if he got a scholarship. So he put himself in a position to do that. And so when I was dating him, I looked at that. I wasn't looking at someone and saying, they have to have a, mother, father, this, that like the traditional thing that people put out there, like the Brady Bunch. I looked at what was he? Who was he? How did he think? What did he want? And in many ways, I was like, and it was funny because I told his aunt one time, like his favorite aunt, I was like, you guys just don't know Ronnie. Ronnie is like who he is in many ways. I feel like he's more ambitious than I am. And so, and what I mean by that, he understood, okay, we both have a career. Whose career is moving here, here, or here? How do I support that? And he's always been that way.
I like it. I like it a lot. Huh?
I know I've got a dip. I just want to say, Jacqueline, I know they got some more questions. I know there's a lot of people. We got a lot of Instagram. We got a lot of Twitch comments. We got a lot of everything. I do want to say from vacation, because I got to go do the family dinner. I love you, sis. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for being who you are to us. Thank you for being who you are, who you say you are. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right, straight up. And I'm proud of you.
Thank
we
you.
love you. We're going to see you at Black Week. We're going to be front row.
Exactly.
We're gonna be front row supporting you at Black Week. So you let us know what it is. We're gonna be right there with our cameras. We're gonna be right there. So just sis, we love you. Thank you for showing us love. Thank you for being you. Thank you for opening doors for the next ones up. Like, cause you are the real.
Thank you.
Straight up. Straight up.
Thank you.
Be good, Cuzzo.
I love you, sis. This shit, I don't want to leave. I gotta go. Mama gonna kill me. So I'm gonna holler at y'all.
See you
Enjoy
later.
your vacation. Enjoy your vacation.
All right.
Love you guys, man. Love you.
See you later. Jack, let me ask you a question. This has been a big topic that's been coming up as well. Not only the family dynamic, but when to start a family now, right? Because more often than not now, what we're seeing is a lot of people that's saying, I want to be a professional. I want to start my career. I want to get to a certain level first before I start a family. Problem with that is the goalpost keeps moving, right? And then you find yourself later on in life, in your late 30s, right? Or something early 40s, and then say, now, do I even want to start a family at this point? In your opinion, what do you think would be more beneficial? Start the family early in your career or become a career person and then try to find somebody that, is evenly yoked and start a family then?
I guess my first reaction is I really do think it depends.
Okay.
I do know, people mature at certain different times. Sometimes people aren't ready. When we had our first child, you know, because we were still in California, we had help. Because I was an only child, my parents were driving down to LA. I never had to worry about, can I get some help? My husband had, aunts and uncles that were willing to chip in. And so I felt like we waited. We got married early, quite frankly, in today's world. We got married like a year or two after we graduated from college. But we waited 5 years before we had our first child. And that was more because we were like, thinking that we weren't like, did we have the stuff that we wanted to have in place? It had nothing to do with the job. It was like, we wanted to buy our first house. We wanted to do those things. So we were kind of waiting to get those ducks in a row. And so we waited 5 years. Thinking now, it's like, I probably could have done it 2 years sooner than I did it. But I was still young. I was still, I wasn't in my 30s. I was still in my 20s. And so I benefited from that. I do think as you get older, what becomes more difficult is just people, women start having fertility issues when they're like hitting their late 30s and their early 40s. And so I would encourage people to try to do it before that, just because you start having fertility issues. And then there's no guarantee that it's going to work out. Just because you see a bunch of people walking around nowadays who seem to be like 47 having kids, that is not average. And so if they've been fortunate enough to have things work out, that's great. But I don't know, is that like 1 in 20? And your odds are going to be better when you're younger. So for people that want to have children, particularly for women, you really kind of need to have those conversations with your doctor so they can tell you kind of all things around fertility and how it changes over time. I think that's really important for people to know.
I mean, speak on it, Nadege. You're a young professional, and we've had this conversation, right? And you're pursuing a career. How do you feel about it? What's your thoughts on it?
I think, right, I definitely agree with Jacqueline in the sense of like, if that's where your mind is at, if your mind, like, you would like to start a family, if that's on your mind, then you have to consider it. I also have friends who are like,
it's not on my mind.
Yeah, like kid, no kid, like it don't bother me either way. But they know, right? They have this career, they have this purpose, and that, right? Where do you feel your purpose lies? Is a part of your purpose include kids? Doesn't part of your purpose not? Is part of your purpose whatever God, your mind says, like whatever God has in store? Then okay, But I do agree, right? If children are on your mind, if that's something you feel in your heart and your mind, that's where you see part of your future, then yeah, you absolutely need to talk to your doctor. You need to have that kind of plan in place.
And I think people should explore it, because here's what I do know, and I've had this happen as well. I've had, friends and people who work for me who were like in their, mid to late 30s, and they're like, oh, I'm going to freeze my eggs, or I'm going to do this. Or they've said to me, I'm okay if I don't have kids, blah, 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 blah.
That part right there.
I'm okay if that doesn't happen. Like, I'm okay. And then all of a sudden it changes.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like, it's maybe they got married, and then all of a sudden they want to have kids. And I've even said, I thought you were kind of okay not having kids. And they're like, well, no, I really want to do that. And having that be a real emotional journey for them. Because at one point they were like, oh, it's okay if I don't. Then all of a sudden it was like, oh no, this is something I really want. And, to Naja's point, like, I think you need to be thinking about that right now, whether you want to do it or not do it. And that needs to be part of your plan.
Right.
Like, you need to start thinking about it, probably in your like mid to late 20s, because it takes time to find somebody. It takes time to figure all that out. And it doesn't just happen like that. See, you guys could just, you guys could go do it like that. We gotta have some plans.
Ooh, wait, what?
No, she's talking about guys. No, she's talking about guys.
Yeah. I think, well, guys, because there's so much research now, like, I think, guys, you need to start planning too, because
no, they do need to start planning, but they don't have the clock. They don't have the biological clock.
But we do though, and I'm gonna give you my aspect on it.
Okay.
We do though.
Okay.
We talked about you growing up and understanding what your parents were to you and how that shaped you. So technically your parents were a couple generations ahead of you as young adults, right?
Right.
That dynamic completely changes now. If your parents are 3-4 generations in front of you and they're not parents kind of anymore, they're more like grandparents. The generational gap can be so far removed. Look at the rate of which society is changing every day right now. So just imagine that somebody waits 40 years to now have a child. Right. There we go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There we go.
True. That's very true.
So that's what I'm saying. As far as, look, the money, we understand the money, right? We know what that is. It's, you want to be financially stable. We get that. But is that more important than being able to directly relate to your child as you being your child's primary source of influence, right?
I agree with that.
That's what I'm talking about.
And honestly, I have watched people who had kids young and on and on. And when I say young, they might have been 27, 28. That's young these days.
Right.
And to be honest, they manage it. It gets done. Like, nothing doesn't get done. They still manage to have a career. They still manage to make things happen. And so I don't think that you have to forego one for the other.
Okay. I can respect that. Again, it's just a conversation because it comes up on both sides of the fence, right? We've had several guests come on and say, like Nadege and we just talked about, they're like, I'm okay if I don't have children, right? And then we have other guests come on and say, I should have had children earlier because now that it's so late, I don't know if the whole process of doing it and finding your person and growing with your person through that season, not finding somebody who is already seasoned. So now, if you're in your 40s, let's say you find another professional, especially men, because we don't go through exactly what you guys go through. What if I'm already seasoned and being a parent, right? You see what that we can't experience that technically together, that season of us learning and growing together. So I just think that it's a conversation that needs to be had because once again, our society needs to understand that, yes, we need to work and we want to build careers to support our family, but we cannot forego the value of what family is in continuing this thing along. So I just wanted your thoughts on that. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's, you have to talk about it. I think you have to be intentional.
Right.
Our entire conversation tonight has been about intentionality, not anything, but there's like in every aspect of what we do, we have to be intentional about how we move. And what I would say is it's even more important today than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. We don't have the latitude for mistakes like we used to.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Speaking of intentionality, I want to know. I want the story, the intentionality behind you getting into Teradata. Like, I want to know, like, how did you become like, ta-da?
Well, that was like, I've got two mentors. One is David Kinney. He's the chairman of Nielsen and was the CEO. And then Rod Atkins he was a leader of a really huge business at IBM that was a $20 billion business and was in contention for the CEO role at one point. And then Jenny Remedy got it, but he was like, you know how there's always 4 or 5 people running for something, and he was one of those people. Those two guys are two men who I just, have one been very supportive of me, but two always kind of told me how it was. And when the Teradata opportunity came up, I had spoken to both of them about, I think this was a time for me to leave Nielsen and go try something new, where I was going to be like the person that was the public company officer. And that was, that was great. I was at Teradata for 3.5 years, which is a long time for a CMO, quite frankly, because most CMO roles are only a couple of years. And I just, I have always loved tech, and maybe it's my passion for tech that kind of has fueled me. And to the point that I made earlier when I was talking about Oracle, one of the reasons that I like math is because 1 + 1 is 2. It's not 4, it's not 6. It is a finite number, period. And so I have tended to do well in places where there's just less ambiguity. And I've tended to like subjects in school that didn't have ambiguity, because I don't want an opinion. I just want facts. And so I've leaned into places that provide that kind of environment, as compared to places where it's a little bit more squishy. And then all of a sudden it's like, Nadege, you're popular and Chadeo is not. And so,
damn it.
I mean, and he's over there like, I did better work than her. I don't know why I didn't, and then next thing, and everyone's like, well, we know everyone likes her. And so I've tended to try to put myself in places where the metrics are the metrics, your KPIs or your OKRs, and it's just very clear. And so when you achieve, and it's hard to be a doubter when it's very clear what the answers are.
That's a fact. That's a fact. But the only question I would ask to that is, do you feel like it's more often than not that most of these agencies do not have a clear and concise path to where you want to go, right? So yeah, right. So we know the titles are there, but very often you find that you're like, well, how do I get there? And it's like very hush hush. How do we deal with that?
I would say it differently.
Okay.
No, I don't think it's hush hush. I don't think there is a path, if you understand what I'm saying. So I don't think there's a path. What I would tell people to do would be curate the type of experiences that you believe that you need to get to the job that you want. Okay. And if you're not getting those experiences in the company that you're in, then you do need to go to another company so that you can curate those experiences. Okay. Because what you're trying to do is build a portfolio. And when you build a portfolio, you can say, I have A, B, C, D, and E. It doesn't matter whether you got it at 5 different companies, X, Y, Z, X prime, Y prime. It doesn't matter. Right. You curate those experiences, and then you have the track record that proves it. That's all anyone cares about, especially now. When I was coming up, people were like, oh, so-and-so left a job. They only stayed there 3 years. Now people are like, I don't know, 2 years, 18 months. They're like on to the next. And so because that has changed and is much more accepting than what it was, then my advice is curate the roles that you need to get to the level that you want to get to.
Okay, let me refine that a little bit more when I say hush hush. The reason I ask that is because some jobs is very simple. Like you said, 1 + 1 is 2. You have to go to school, you have to get this degree, you have to intern, you have to do a residency, et cetera, et cetera. There's a clear path to get to this thing here. Now on some other jobs, right? Especially now we're talking experience. Let's say you come in, you work for Oracle doing a thing A, but now you want to become a thing B, where you technically don't have no experience in that thing, but you have experience in doing your thing for that company. Now it's like, how do I get there? Like, how do I pivot there?
This is what I would say, and this is really important. So this is where it does come down to relationships.
There we go.
It comes down to relationships and talking to people and telling them what you want and how you want to do it, and so that they can help you, right? You want to be in a place where someone, you say, I know I only have A experience, but what I'd like to do is B over here.
Right.
So what is it I need to do? If you are, quote, hooked up to the right people, they will help you get there because they're above you and they know how to make that happen.
Message.
That's critical. That's critical.
So since we're talking about cultivating experiences, right? I think this is a perfect time. You've cultivated a lot of experiences, and now finally you decided to add to this list of the resume that we read at the beginning, author, right? Let's pivot into the book and talk about what led you into deciding now you want to be an author, and what is this book about, and why is it so special to you to write this thing and get it out to the people?
Well, the title is Unstoppable, and then it's a strategy.
Okay, here we go. We got it right here. We got it.
It's a strategy to speak up, show up, and rise with purpose.
Okay.
The first chapter in the book is unspoken. And I shared with you in the very beginning of this conversation tonight some things that I would have never shared, but I shared them in the book, so I'll share them here. Because there are things that we go through, and I'm sure Nadege can talk about that, particularly as women of color. There are things that we go through that we wouldn't talk about, that we are afraid to talk about, that we're afraid to talk about things that happen to us. And so I spend the first chapter talking about things that are unspoken, ways that I have been treated, things that I had to do to overcome that. And each of the chapters actually has a tool that goes with it to kind of help navigate and work through some of the situations. The second chapter is uncover. And so, you have things that you can't talk about. Then you need to kind of go figure out what's important to you. And I don't think we do enough about that. And just like we had the conversation about, is this person the right person to be in with a relationship? You need to do that with the company too. These are the things that they like, that they're good at, that are important to them. These are the things. Is it like this or is it like that? Is it like a hand in a glove where the things are knitted together and it's very clear and there's a lot of, it's symbiotic, or it's just like, gosh, we're on two different planets. People need to kind of figure those things out. And the very last chapter is unstoppable, because I believe that we do have everything in us that we need to be successful, but we have to learn how to build that muscle, and that takes time. And so I literally go through 10 chapters and 10 steps on how to get there.
So we got some comments from LinkedIn. Mike McKay said that's a great name for a book. You know what I mean? So you gotta, again, he went on to say name of the book and yours as well.
Tell Mike he needs to buy it. It's coming out in February.
Mike, get you an autographed copy. Mike, stop playing with it. Don't play with it. Don't play with it. What you guys say? You say something?
No, I was disagreeing.
Yeah, but I think. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. Again, we talk about purpose driven. We talk about impact. We talk about the understanding of experience and giving it back to the coach. I think that's one of the best ways that anybody could actually give back to the coaches is creating some type of chronological story of their life or their experiences and putting it out so that people can read, right, and understand what we're going through and learn from it, right? Dr. Matthew knows one of my most famous things that he said when he came on the show was, if we're not careful, then history will become his story.
That, yes, I think that is true. And I'll
Right.
do you one better.
Yeah.
I actually have built an app that goes with the book too.
Oh, there we go. Oh, look, oh man. Oh, come on, Jacqueline.
Yes. Tell us more.
Oh man.
I have an app that goes with the book that's like, if they're the tools that you would find in the book, I actually have an app that I actually have built myself that I'm very, very proud of. It's amazing, like how you can do things now. Not that I'm some major coder, but you know, I've got enough help over here to try to do it. So yeah, I'm yes, that's going to be part of it too. And that's something to me that's unique. I don't know. I haven't seen that done before, but it's something that I thought was important. And there's just a lot of things telling people like, you know, this is what you should do. And I'm not telling you what you should do. This process is about self-discovery and for you to understand what's going to work for you. There are things that work for me that may not work for someone else, but I do give you a tool on how to assess it and how to think about it and how to move forward.
Wow. Well, pre-order me for February.
And the book release, you can sign copies.
Yeah. You're coming to the launch. You just can't. You can't be.
It's already on the calendar. It's already.
You can't be in California when it happens. You need to be.
No, I promise. I will be.
We getting signed copies.
I will be in New York. I'm gonna be first one in line. So we've come to the end of this show where we have a nice segment that I like to call From the Saucer. The reason we call it that is because I believe you should never pour from your cup. You should fill it up first, let it runneth over, and the excess that falls into your saucer is what you should pour into others. So Jacqueline, you've pretty much been doing this for the entire 2 hours, but if you have just a little bit more to pour into the cups of our audience, just some wisdom you'd like to share, I'm gonna say specifically to the young Black women in tech, in marketing, who are, who want to become you, because now that they've seen who you are, they know they can become you.
This is what I would say, and I've thought about this honestly a lot, particularly over the last couple weeks with everything that we've all been seeing and going through, and not to harken back to Rodney King, why can't we all just get along? What I would say is we are resilient. We've come through a lot, whether it was slavery, whether it was through civil rights, whether there's been a lot that we've been able to overcome. This time will be no different. We will continue to be steadfast. We will continue to be positive. We will continue to act with clarity. We will continue to act with integrity. And most of all, we will continue to walk in love. And as long as we do that, we will always be a child of God. We will always be taken care of. And no one can stop you when you walk in love.
7 period, ladies and gentlemen. I just got one last question, Jacqueline, and I have to ask this because it seems like you keep moving your goalposts. So my final question for you is, you have all these accolades, right? And I know sometimes when you do a thing, it just, you get used to moving so much that it's just what you do, right? But what is your final goalpost? What is your final goal where you're like, okay, I want to get to this, or I want to do a thing, and when I accomplish this, it's time to go fishing, right? It's time to I'm going to enjoy, the rest of my life, my husband, I'm going to try, what is that final goal that Jacqueline is like, I want to get here and then I'm done?
I really want to help as many women of color over the next really 2 to 3 years, really think about how they can achieve their goals, how they can be very intentional in doing so. And I really, really don't want women to have to go what I went through 20 years ago. I am committed to trying to try to remove some of that friction that I know that I had to kind of, chop down bamboo. We shouldn't have to do that anymore. We should have environments that are healthy, nurturing, where we can be our authentic selves, and that is okay. And we are enough, and we should feel that. And that is what I want people to feel. And I think it will take me, I think that's something that I'm pushing on in just my personal self. So it's not this job or that job. That is something that I want to see value in. And that's important to me.
There it is.
Yeah.
Now, Dad, you want to go ahead and welcome her to the family and do the honors? Go ahead, sis.
Oh, well, it is an honor and a pleasure to welcome you to the More Than a Title family.
There it is.
Yes. And of course, being a part of this family comes with quite some major perks. So I'm going to hand it back over to my big bro. So
Okay.
I want to make sure it's said correctly. So
listen, it just need it. No, go listen. It doesn't need to be said correctly. It just needs to be said. Go ahead.
Oh,
it just needs to be said.
Okay. So first things first, if there is anybody, and I mean anybody on the show from start to the next 300 episodes that you want to connect with, we will absolutely do that for you. So you hit us up saying, Nadege, Chadeo, Jared, I want to hit up da-da-da-da. We'll get you on a Zoom call with them, make the nice introduction. We hop off. Y'all handle your business. Dozens, right? Dozens of deals have occurred in that.
Over 2 dozen deals already, Jacqueline.
There you go. The next thing is, right, you are our family. And just like we said at the beginning, just like you supported us front row, we will always be there to support you front row. So absolutely give us a date to your book launch and any other sort of event. You just want us to come out, show love, show support. We're here for you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the fam.
Yeah, it is. And I'm just going to add a little bit to it. And I want you to please take us seriously. This is how we build our village with our guests, right? We understand that you've had a village that has helped you reach the level of success that you are, but it doesn't stop there, right? You want to reach more people. This is now your platform as well, right? When your book comes out, if you want to come on, if you have other people with similar stories, or you're like, hey guys, I know somebody that would be great for the show, just shoot us a text, right? Normally what we do is we start a group chat. I know you said you were texting Jared, but we're going to start a group chat at the end. Between us, just us and the guests. That way we don't do managers and assistants. That way communication doesn't break down. It goes through very quickly. One of us will answer very quickly, right? And that way, now this is your platform, right? So when you need a message that you want to get out, we can just we don't have to ask permission. See, we've gotten to the point where we don't have to ask permission, right? And this is how we help guests like you continue your journey on down the road, right? And then now there's the book signing, but not only the book signing, if you have any event that we could make it to, obviously there, we'll check scheduling, but any event that we could make it to, whether we cover the event or not, just to show support, we would love to do that. And or if your family's in New York and you guys just want to hang out and go get some lunch, we do that too, right? But I'm going to tell you, right? It's about not being transactional, right? It's about actually breaking bread and talking with each other and actually getting this community going. So welcome to the More Than a Title family. Please take us seriously with this, right?
I will. Thank you.
Right, because you don't need to be in the same industry. We've already vetted you to bring you on the show. We only want like-minded individuals to have conversations, right? So, and that's it. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, batting 100 over 100. Coming up on 2 hours. We told you what it was. She phenomenal. We said the word phenomenal. That's because that's what we do. And we read off a 3.5-page resume. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we don't recommend you put out a 3.5-page resume. You got to keep it short. But when you come on More Than the Title, we're going to give you your flowers. Some of the key takeaways from this interview include: 1, purpose, right? She told you that she was purposefully driven. She knew what she wanted to do. She came up with a game plan and she actively pursued it. Now, Secondly, support, right? She told you she had the support of her parents to help her along the journey. And then eventually she found a significant other who they were like-minded and they helped each other. Very important takeaway to that is her significant other listened. They listened to what she needed. I want to work here. He sent out the resume. He filled out the envelope and the stamps. And again, relationships are about being what your person needs at the time that they need it, right? Very important. They started a family and made decisions. They moved from state to state, but they did it as a unit. They did it purposefully, and they did it with God, right? Religion, right? We keep hearing about it. So if your religion is part of your backbone, then lean on that, right? Lean on that. We also talked about a couple things about walking into a room and knowing how to present yourself at a certain time, because first appearances are everything. And we know that we're being judged regardless of how we might see ourselves naturally, right? Learning how to navigate certain spaces, right? She told you that she went from one company to another company, learned what she needed to learn from that company, and then elevated to another company. Now she's coming out with a book. She's now a tech founder. She's not going to stop, ladies and gentlemen. You know what we say every single time. She's a hustler, baby. And it reiterates everything that we say to end off the show every single episode. The dream is free. But the hustle, well, that's so separately. Y'all know what it is, man. It's more than the title. This is Tuesday, Pod Day. It's your favorite podcast, and we will be back on Thursday, second day of the week, because you know we do it twice in a week. And listen, who else but us, man? We're gonna see y'all later. Peace.